Hey everybody, what's up? Tim here with this week's Faith on Fire post. I hope you are doing awesome, crushing it, and seeing God show up in your life in a remarkable way. Title for today's shoot is Believe Only and Fear Not. And this comes to us from the story of Jesus and Jairus. And if you remember, Jairus was a leader of the synagogue, and he had a daughter who was sick to the point of death. And Jesus agreed to go home with Jairus and heal his daughter. And on the way to Jairus' house, Jesus got caught up in healing some other people. And as he was doing that, someone came from Jairus' home and said, "Don't trouble the master any longer. Your daughter is dead." And Jesus immediately turned around and said, "Fear not, believe only." Now that is the challenge for all of us. What do we do when we're confronted with a situation or a challenge or a difficulty or hardship or death or what seems to be the impossible? What do we do when the voices come and speak to us and try to convince us that it's dead, it's over with? We need to do what Jesus said. We need to fear not, and we need to believe only. So a couple Aprils ago, I was going through driver school at Pocono International Raceway, and I was driving a Formula 2000 car, and on the third day of racing school, it rained, and it rained ferociously in the early morning. And we were going to run rain or shine, and I got to tell you, I was absolutely terrified because I'd be going faster than I'd ever have before in the rain in a race car with other cars on the track. And as I was sitting out looking at the car and the track that morning, fear was knocking at my door. I had plenty of opportunity to fear, and the pressure was great. The voices were saying, "You're going to die, you're going to crash, you can't do this." And they kept calling to me, and they kept calling to me, and they kept calling to me, where I absolutely started to feel it in my physiology. I could feel it in my stomach, and I could feel that fear starting to grip. Well, what you have to do in those situations is you have to do exactly what Jesus said. You have to fear not and believe only. So how do you do that? How do you shut the fear out, and how do you believe only? Well, our level of belief or our level of faith is typically proportional to the level of God's word that we programmed into our spirits, into our hearts, and into our minds. So in that situation, I knew the only thing that was going to knock that fear out of the ballpark, that was going to crush that fear, that was going to put it to rest, was God's word. So I started to quote the scriptures that I knew would attack fear. I started to quote, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil." And I said it over and over and over again. And I started to confess again and again and again that he gives his angels charge over me. They bear me up on their hands lest I dash my foot against a stone. And as I got in that car and turned the engine on, the fear was still knocking at the door. Those thoughts were trying to consume me, but I overwhelmed them with God's word. I kept confessing, his angels have charge over me. His angels have charge over me. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. And I kept saying it again and again and again. As we rolled off the starting line, and as we got onto the course, I started to say it again and again and again to myself under my helmet. His angels have charge over me. His angels have charge over me. His angels have charge over me. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. And what that did is two things. Number one, is it caused faith to take hold, and I started to see myself succeeding as opposed to failing or crashing. And number two, it choked the fear out. So the way that you fear not and believe only is you unleash God's word and you say it again and again and again. And when the situation is tough, that's when you got to call for it. That's why it's so important to get into the word and know it, because you don't have time necessarily to go and look up scriptures or to consult your preacher or to look at your favorite videos. You got to know the scriptures offhand. And even if it's only one or two or three of them, know them. Get them in your conscious, get them in your subconscious so that you can unload them when the time is called for. Because when you find yourself faced with the challenge or the opportunity, you got to take control of your thoughts then. You got to take control of your spirit then. You got to shut down fear then, and you have to believe. And Jairus did that. He believed only, his daughter was raised. And in that case, I did a good job. I believed only, and I was able to successfully get through that day of racing school without incident, and ended up actually doing pretty well. So when you lean on God's word, and you get that, you say that, and you think that over and over and over again, that's how you believe, and that's how you shut off fear. So fear not, believe only, and she shall be made whole, is what Jesus said to Jairus. And what I'm saying to you is fear not, believe only, and you'll be made whole in your situation, whatever that may be. So this is Tim with today's Faith on Fire. Have an awesome day. I'll talk to you soon.